Welcome back to another episode of the Agents to Owners podcast. I am pumped up to be with our next guest. This guy has been a scratch agent for 2 years after a 7-year career in law enforcement. Um,
15.
15? Is that what
Yeah.
you said? 15 years? Wow. I was able to meet this guy at the IAOA Innovation Conference in Nashville. So super happy to connect with him today. Mr. Mike Sharp, welcome to the program.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So let's just get started with. Why don't you give us a little background on your insurance history and how you got into the industry?
Yeah. So I started in insurance back in 2014.
Okay.
I was actually coaching youth wrestling, and I met a guy who happened to be a recruiter at New York Life. And he's like, "Man, I think you'd be awesome at this job." And I'm like, "Nah, I think I'm good, man. Right? I was doing the police thing. I was good. I was working nights and coaching wrestling in the evenings." And long story short, I listened to him, got on with New York Life. Worked with them for a number of years. Actually got promoted, moved up in the ranks there, became a partner, managed a team of other financial professionals. I did that with New York Life for about 5 years, and then I got approached by Mass Mutual, and their opportunity seemed great because at New York Life you can't do sales and recruiting. So at Mass, I could do both. I could go back into sales, which I really enjoyed doing, but I can also build a team, which was okay. I liked doing it, but it wasn't like what I loved doing.
Yeah.
So the infrastructure there seemed like it was a good move. I got there and it wasn't. So I hated it, didn't like it. So um, the pandemic happens, and I kicked around a couple times, like, man, I should open up an independent insurance agency. So that's what we did.
Yeah, so and if I read your profile right, it looked like there was about a year overlap from when you were still an officer to when you started your agency. So how did that work?
Yeah, so I'm just a man that doesn't sleep. I did
Yeah.
both jobs for a long time. Actually, the entire time I was in New York Life working full time as a recruiter, I was still working full time as a police officer through both those jobs. And then when I started this agency, I still had been working full time as a policeman. And so, yeah, I just did it all, man. Today's day and age with laptops and cell phones, you don't need to be in one location to
Yeah.
operate.
So what led to your decision of deciding I'm going to open up my own agency?
Yeah, so I kicked around the idea a couple times. The first time I approached one of the carriers that we have now, like, hey man, I was actually going to take my Series 7 exam, and I was like, hey, I
Mm.
want to take this exam, and then I want to open up an agency, and I'm going to kill it for you guys. I'm going to do everything. And the recruiter was like, yeah, we're not hiring anybody, and I was like, what? You mean you're not hiring people, right? Like, I came from a world in life insurance where, like, hey, if you can pass this test, like, get in here. We'll
Yeah.
show you how to sell some policies. But the PNC side, not so much, right? So that guy kind of like really busted my spirit on that. And so I kind of kicked around like, man, I really want to do that. So I interviewed at a lot of different places, right? Like Goosehead, Allstate, Farmers, State Farm. And I really came back and was like, I think I want to be an independent agent. So I reapproached this company while I was still at Mass, and I was like, hey, I just saw an ad that you're hiring agents, but the guy told me you weren't hiring agents. So, like, what's the deal with that? And I still didn't have a PNC license yet.
Okay.
And the lady I talked to there runs the Pittsburgh area here. And she's like, well, get your PNC license and then come back and talk to us. So a month later, I called her back. I was like, hey, I got my license now. And she's like, oh, okay. Well, that was quick, right? And then, the interview process with that company actually was really, really daunting and long. But after about 8 months, we got appointed and started a scratch agency.
Was that Erie?
Yeah,
It was. Okay.
yeah.
Okay. So now when you said you interviewed, you looked at a lot of different options. Did you look at networks or cluster? Did you
No,
look
I
at
didn't. I
going that
didn't
way?
know about those
Okay.
things.
I
So
didn't
I
either.
didn't. I didn't know what a network or a cluster was. And in
Right.
hindsight, I'm glad. I'm kind of glad I didn't.
Yeah.
And they seem great, and they work for a lot of people, specifically in certain states, Gulf states where it's hard to get appointments.
Yeah.
That's probably the way into the market. But for me, I didn't know about them, and then two, once I learned about them, it wasn't something that I wanted to be a part of. I did interview with, excuse me, I did interview with SIAA, which I
Okay.
later learned was one of those.
Yeah.
But after reviewing their contract and realizing like it's a marriage, not like
Yeah.
not a part. I mean, it's a partnership, but like to get out, like you need a divorce decree, and
Yeah.
I was not interested in that. So
So then you found your other, you became an Erie agent, and then you went out and got your other direct appointments with your other carriers, because you have quite a few, don't you? I mean,
yeah, we have I think 30.
whole that you got all on your own.
Yeah, I mean
Wow.
they're all different though, right? Like one is you know dwelling fires. Another one's just
Yeah.
workman's comp. Another one might be like, non-standard auto. But we have, 30 for different things.
Now, does Erie set, some sort of restrictions on who you can be appointed with, or
So no, for me, that was the exciting part about the Erie contract. That's why I went back to them and said, "Hey, like I really want this contract because they have a captive feel, but their contract in plain language is an independent agent contract. So they have no say over appointments with other companies, our clients, anything.
okay,
But they still provide a lot of the support that those other companies talked about. And so, I really value the Erie relationship. I think it's phenomenal. It's one of the reasons we've been able to do a lot of the things that we've done. But at the same time, we spend a lot of time, energy, efforts, and money to get people to walk into the door.
yeah,
And so if, verbally, hyperbole, like people don't just walk in the door, but you know,
right, yeah,
we spend a lot of time, energy, efforts, and money to get people into us. And so
yeah.
the last thing I wanted to have happen was they leave without a product. So it was important that, we could get other carriers and still service people that we had the opportunity to do business with.
Yeah, so I noticed, from seeing you online interact in different Facebook groups and LinkedIn, it seems like you have aggressive growth goals, and it seems like you're writing a lot of premium. Um, and now that you're 2 years into it, especially that first year, how did you survive financially? Did you have savings to live on? Did you take out loans?
Yeah, I mean, so that was the interesting part about the Erie contract. Coming in as a scratch agent, they had a scratch agent loan program.
Okay.
Essentially, they paid you, a couple $1,000s a month. But it was like a draw, right? So like the first
Yep.
month we got that money, it was great. The next month we got a little bit less, and then the next month we were producing so much that we didn't get it anymore. So, I didn't really use it that much. What I come to learn later from one of my friends was, as long as you wrote enough business, that money was paid out to you on your anniversary as a bonus. So for the
Wow.
last 2 years, I've been able to hit that bonus number with them, and we get a really nice bonus on our anniversary. Now next year will be my last one, but I also did still work full time as a policeman. So um, I
Yeah.
wasn't. I mean, it's hard to say. Like I said, I'm a workaholic, so for some people, 8 hours and they're exhausted. For me, I would get up at like 6 o'clock in the morning, and I would get here to this location. I'm in now my office, right? And I would get here and I would work from 6:30 till about 2 in the afternoon because I worked afternoon shift. And so at 2 o'clock, I would shut down. I'd leave here, close my office, and I would move all the operations to my cell phone. And I have a laptop, and I drive to my police department. I would literally change out of these clothes. I felt like Batman. I would change out
Yeah.
of these clothes and I would put my uniform on, and
Yeah.
then I would load up my police car with, it was funny, right? So I'm loading up my AR-15, our less lethal shotgun. I got all that stuff and, shields and everything you might need in a shift. And then I'd drive over to my personal car and I'd grab my work bag for here and I'd put my laptop and, I bought one of those desks for the steering wheel.
Yeah.
And so I would literally just work while I was working. If people called, there would be times that hilarious, right? People would would call like, "Hey, I'm looking for a quote." I'm like, "Yeah, no problem, man. I got you." And I'd pull out my notepad and I'd start writing their information down. And then the radio starts going off like, "Hey, all units, we got a crash." And I'd be like, "Yeah, no problem, man. I'll get you a quote tomorrow. And if I need any more information, I'll let you know." And I'd hang up the phone and I'd take off lights and sirens to the crash. And then we got done. And, when things kind of slowed down, I'd just open my laptop and
Yeah,
start working again. And so, technology allowed me to do
that's
both
awesome.
jobs anywhere, right? So we had in-car Wi-Fi, so that helped, right? I had the Wi-Fi from my cell phone, so I always had internet. All of the systems are cloud-based, so I always had access to all the quoting systems,
Yeah.
anything that I needed like that. And then a few months in, we kind of got busy at the agency, right? Like, so I was closing at like 2 in the afternoon, but my hours were till 5. And so I hired my recruiting assistant. She actually worked for me at New York Life and Mass Mutual. And when I departed from there, she was kind of still looking for something part time. And so I hired her to work from like 2 until 5. So
Perfect.
that way I didn't have to answer the phone, right? Like,
Yeah.
I wasn't in the police car, like on the phone. I was just, she would send me a message or she would do my quote sheet, email it to me, and I'd be like, cool. And I would just do that. And then, I'd work till 11, sometimes later, depending if we had a late call or whatever. And I'd get up the next day and I'd, 5:30, get showered, 6 o'clock, back in my office and doing the same thing. And I did that for like the first year. It was tough. I mean, I worked 7 days a week and 12 hours a day, because the 2 past days or my off days were Monday and Tuesday. So those days I sat in my office till 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night, doing quotes, talking to people, finding opportunity. So, the 2 days I was here, I did, 12 plus hours. And then the days I wasn't here, I still did the 8 hours and then worked as much as I could when I was working the other job.
So you quoted somebody and then went and arrested somebody all within a span of like a half hour. I'm pretty sure that's never been done by any other insurance agent in the entire country. So
I don't know, but yeah, that definitely happened. I mean, I was on the phone with somebody. We had a call to our Walmart. I got out and I'm like fighting somebody right after that. So, that was cool. And, it was definitely interesting, but I made it work, right? Like, there's mute buttons on both sides, right? So
yeah,
the radio
it's
starts squawking,
amazing.
I'd mute the person while they were talking, and then I'd turn the radio down and unmute them. And like, yeah, no problem. Oh, cool. 2017 Ford. That's nice. Right. And
Right.
you just kind of keep going with it.
Now that's a hustle. Those two
Yeah.
jobs. Do you have like a focused target market that you go after right now?
So I mean, it's getting there. So when I first started, we just wanted to write business. My
Yeah,
focus was just to find 3 to 5 people every day that let me quote their insurance.
yeah,
That
that's a
was
good
it.
number.
Um, yeah, that's the goal, right? Like 3 to 5 people that are good, family people. They have house, cars, things like that. I like to keep it all together. I think we have like an 85% bundle rate here, something like that. We bundle a lot of
That's
business.
fantastic. That's
Yeah.
huge.
So, um, but now, not really. I don't really. I'm trying to figure that out. Like, I don't know where to go. I mean, I like doing the dwelling fires, so I found myself following a lot of those groups in my area where. We have, I think, Pittsburgh Real Estate Investors or something, and
Mhm.
somebody posting there like, "Does anybody know an insurance agent?" And I love it because I'll see my name post up like
Yeah, all the
5 or 6
time.
times. Like,
Yeah,
people are like, "Hey, call this guy, call this guy, call this guy."
yeah,
So I don't, it's not a target niche for me. It's something like in 22 that was part of my goal, was to make those dwelling fires, those rental guys, the landlords that have multiple properties, um, a niche. But it didn't take off for me. And now we're in November. We got some carriers this year that can help with that. So that was
yeah,
part of the goal. But and we wrote a lot of it, but it's not something that I come in today and I'm like, all right, the goal is to get 6 new dwelling fires today.
yeah.
I'm still just trying to write business. I will say we've kind of moved away from like, hey, you came in the door, let's find you a piece of policy, right? Like, we've gotten away from the non-standards, as far as when they come in, no problem. We like, that was my thing. People called me and they're like, hey, I need insurance. Can you help? And I'm like, yeah, sure. What do you need? We got it, right? And so I've kind of gotten away from that now, where I'm like, I don't know if I can help you. You don't have no license, probably not the best guy for you. And I kind of refer those people anywhere
Good.
else.
Yeah, good. Yeah, it's not your long term. It's not your
Well,
long
I
term
found it's
client.
too much of a pain in the butt, right?
Yeah.
Because they're constantly in notice of cancellation. They're constantly needing ID cards. They wreck all the time, and so it's taking away from like my target client,
Yeah.
right? It was taking away. I'm like sitting on a stack of quotes, and I'm like working on this person that has like a suspended license, DUI, whatever, and their rate's gonna suck. And now I've spent all this time for them to do 5 or 6 quotes to be like, well,
Nah.
those are higher than what I found online. I'm like, well, then why am I wasting my time with you? So we just quit
We
doing that.
we still do it, and I've hemmed and hawed on whether we're going to shut it off altogether.
I
And
still do it
what we've kind of done is just try to be super efficient with that, which is we have a very specific process with them where first of all, we're going to try to limit the time on the phone and try to cut down on the dramatic story, which almost always seems to come with it. Um, so we'll send them our quote form. That way we get them to fill it out. You put in all the information. You get it back. We quote it with Progressive. Here's what we have. If it works, great. If it doesn't, you know,
Good luck.
this is what we have.
That was my
So
problem. Like I got too many carriers that'll do it. Right? Like I picked up the General. I have Progressive. I have Dairyland. And so now I'm like, all right, well these ones didn't work. I have Bristol West. These ones didn't work. So now I'm like
yeah,
4 different carriers, and I'm like 45 minutes into quoting a piece of business that we're not gonna get. And so now I'm the same way. It's like I'm gonna quote you Progressive and maybe the General, and then like that's it. Like if it doesn't work out, like good luck. Like we have an email that we send people. It's just like hey, it didn't work out. We call it the bad driver email. We send it to them, and it's like it didn't change your rate because of accidents, credit, claims history, but sorry, we'll check back. And I started
yeah,
smart cycling those people for 2 years.
yeah, good. So how are you generating leads and in marketing?
Yeah, so everybody that we write comes into us. So I don't do any cold calling. I tried
Okay.
that twice since I've opened up. The first year got a really slow month, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna buy leads, and I bought leads, and they were absolutely terrible. And a lot of people say they're good if you know how to work them, but I didn't want to spend the money on them, and I didn't like the phone conversation. Like those people weren't happy to talk to me. So,
Mm,
and I spent 15 years of my life dealing with people that weren't happy to talk to me. So I don't want to do that, and that's okay. So right, like because I own the
yeah,
business, so I don't want to
yeah,
do that. So everybody that comes to us now is some type of referral. We have several mortgage people that send us referrals.
yeah.
We have several realtor people that send us referrals. I have a few finance manager friends that send us referrals at dealerships. Most of our best referrals come from current customers. Our social media presence sends in
Mm,
referrals. You were talking about LinkedIn. A gentleman on LinkedIn just found me and was like, "Hey, man, you look like you hustle. I
yeah.
want to work with you." And I didn't know him at all. And one day, one of his clients called, and I was like, "I don't know this person." And I searched him, and I called him. I was like, "Hey, man, are you like looking some kind of split here? Like, what do you want to do?" He's like, "Absolutely not, man. You just look like you hustle. Please take care of my people." And since he
Wow.
started working with us, we have a 100% close ratio with him, and he closes probably 5 or 6 houses a month. Like he is, and
Wow.
we're his only insurance agent on the list of people that he works with. So it's awesome. But they all come to us from there. Other marketing things like Theory has something they wanted us to do, so we signed up for it just because they asked us to. We do some Google stuff. I have Google Ads. I think I pay a couple $100 a month for my website vendor to manage some Google stuff, and all of that stuff is inbound though. So like when they
Yeah.
call us, it's because they found us and they're like, hey, we wanna look for insurance and work with you guys.
How are you getting much from the on that? Are you getting much from Google Ads? I've been working Google Ads pretty hard for well over a year. And I haven't gotten a lot of good results. I'm going to stick with it. Everybody says it's going to take some time, but
I was the
have
same
you?
way. Like Google Ads, like I started out, I'm like, what's going on here? I think I spend $300 a month. That's it.
Okay.
And
Wow.
I would say that we it, probably, I don't know, maybe 5 to 10% a month are from Google. I mean, we get it.
Okay.
We ask everybody how they found us,
Yeah.
and I don't know if I have any right here. Yeah, most of them are from not most of them, but a lot of them are like, yeah, we found you on Google. Like the big thing is the reviews. So
Yeah.
in 2 years, I would think I've amassed almost 160
Wow.
5-star reviews and 158 are 5-star. I got two recently that weren't. One was a 1-star from a rando. I have no idea who this person is. They left no words. They don't have a name on there. That was a 1-star. And then I got another 4-star review because the person called us, let's say on a Monday, and then Tuesday they asked us where their quote was. They didn't have it back fast enough. And but Tuesday we wrote the business, and I called. She left a 4-star review, and I'm like, I'm very sorry. We'll call you right now. Like, what happened? Why didn't you get 5-star service? And she's like, well, I just had to call you the next day and ask you where the quote was. And I'm like, hey, sorry about that. But if that's only worth 4 stars, I get it. But you
The
know,
1-star, did you try and did you go back to Google and you might be able to get them to remove that?
no, it is what it is. It didn't hurt our rating.
Yeah,
So I don't really feel like dealing. If it was multiple, I'd probably go to Google and do that. But it's just it hasn't really felt like worth my time to do. Like I said, it
yeah,
didn't hurt our rating. But the point I'm trying to make with that is that I think because of those reviews, um, we show up better in the chart around
for
here. So
sure.
when people search us, they see our ad maybe, and then they go to our website and they're like, I have one lady, she's like, "Oh, you're Mike." And I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "Oh, you're the one I'm reading about." And I'm like, "Yeah. How
Yep.
can we help you?" And so I think that helped with the ads too.
100% they do. We'll get, I mean, this is how they say it's supposed to go, is we'll get people that see our ad and then they'll go check us out and see that we have, whatever the number is, 300 and some, 5-star reviews. And then we'll have people tell us, we went to you because of your reviews. So they matter big time, and obviously they help big time for SEO. How are you getting your reviews? Is it just asking? Do you have a program for it?
Yeah, I mean, so we use Agency Zoom,
Yep.
and we use that feature in there that sends that out. So like you
Okay.
get a welcome email from us day one. I think day 2 or 3, you get the email asking you for a Google review. I think most of them come in from there.
They do. Wow.
And I spend a lot. Like I just post on Facebook, like, hey, like I think I posted last week. Hey, if you had service from us in the last week and you didn't leave us a Google review, would you mind? I was like, we're really close to 150, and like 7 or 8 people that we just wrote business with. Sorry, Mike, been meaning to do that, and they just
Yeah.
dropped 5-star reviews. Like, so I'll post that every once in a while, like not too often, probably once every quarter or so. I'll
Yep.
just ask my Facebook group of people because we get a lot of business from there. So like, if they didn't have a chance, it's real easy. They can click it right there, hit 5-star. I'm like, bonus if you leave a couple words, right? And then they'll just be like, leave a couple words or whatever, and they give us their review.
We found our best way to get results was just from asking, and right after a sale. And I usually wait till the next day and and send it out, just kind of a general email, but I make it specific to them. That by far has gotten us the best overall results.
Yeah, I think Agency Zoom does most of it for us. I mean,
Yeah.
that system just like I've forgot about it. It just happens.
Yeah, which is the way it should be. And then have you noticed, because we use Agency Zoom as well, and then we have that goes out to to all of our customers as well. And I have noticed on there that like if you look at the survey results, a lot of times they'll leave you 5 stars, but then they won't convert over to the Google review. And a lot of times I'll just follow up and just say, hey, would you thank you very much for your feedback. I noticed you left us a 5-star review. Would you mind? And then I leave them the link again for them to hit that. And sometimes it just takes, it's a lot of times it's just timing for them.
Yeah, it's not something I really look at.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, I'll go in there. I just don't have the time
Yeah.
to do it. I mean, I think once we get like a producer that can take some of the quoting and stuff off my back, I'll have time to dig into things like that. But I mean, most of the day I just spend it quoting insurance.
Awesome. Yeah. So we talked a little bit before we got on air that you just recently hired your second full-time staff person, which is amazing for an agency that's been around for 2 years. Tell me a little bit what that's been like now to have to have employees?
Yeah, so it was actually challenging because this is the third employee we've hired this year. And so um you know, for me it was realizing that the person that's with the first employee, um, her and I were just overwhelmed with
Yeah.
work. And we would end the day and there would be like 8, 10, 12, 15 quotes that still needed to be done. And I was still staying at work till, 8, 9 o'clock at night. And
Yeah.
I'm like, this is out of control. Like, what's
Yeah.
happening? Like, how do we fix this? And so, right at the beginning of the year, I wanted, part of my 2022 planning was to bring someone else on. So we hired a gentleman, a younger guy, early 20s. He came on board
Mhm.
and was absolutely terrible. Uh, Absolutely terrible in every way possible. Nice kid, but not designed for this.
Yeah.
Um, I asked him to do a couple things. I found out he wasn't honest in those things that I asked him to do. I said, "You do these?" He said, "Yeah." I logged right into Ring Central. I'm like, "You haven't dialed these numbers since 3 weeks ago.
Mhm.
That's got to be enough for me, right?" So
Yeah.
we get rid of that guy. I bring on another person, an older lady, super nice. She'd been in Medicare, but I guess she got laid off from the company she was working with. Um, so she was already life licensed, which was great. Got her PNC license really quickly. Started with us right after July 4th, the business day after July 4th. She came on board and was absolutely a disaster. I mean, messed up everything she put her hands on. I'm still finding mistakes that she did today.
Oh man.
And so she ended up having an incident on the phone with someone, saying something that she shouldn't have said to them. And so, I actually talked to a couple people about what I should do about it. And one of the persons said to me, like, "Hey, knowing what you know now, would you hire that person again?" And I was like, "Absolutely not." And they were like, "There's your answer." So, we parted ways with that relationship, put it out again, and we brought this next person on, and she's awesome, like
Well, great.
phenomenal, and listens, can work the computer, shows up to work on time, is currently studying to get licensed, and so and she gets along with us, the other two people that work here, myself and the first staff person. So that person's been great, and it's been helpful. We're actually, I think today we only have like 7 or 8 quotes that need done, and it's the end of the day. So we still have work to do, but a lot of other stuff that my first staff person was doing, right? She was literally doing all of the customer service stuff, which a lot of people talked about that. I didn't know that it would be that much,
Correct.
but it is a lot. And so she was literally spending 3 quarters of the day mortgage changes, ID cards, blah blah blah. So then I was doing all of the quoting for the commercial opportunities we get, the personal lines opportunities we get, and then mind you, I hadn't been in property and casualty before, so every time I do a commercial policy, I have to learn. I got to learn
Yeah.
what I'm doing, and then give the deliverable and be able to answer all the questions. So that takes me time. So I was doing all that plus all the personal lines quoting that we were getting, and I was just like overwhelmed. So we had to bring in another person.
Yeah. And it sounds like one of the challenges, still a challenge for me, to use Dr. Billy Williams' term of spot checking your employees, which is so important. Which is you must have been doing some of that follow ups with your other employees to find out that they were doing things inappropriately. Um,
Yeah, I mean, I think I do a lot of that, but you also can't like spot check something you didn't teach somebody, right?
yeah.
So if you didn't show them how to do it and then you're like upset with them that they didn't do something,
No.
that's on you. So
Yeah.
I try to make sure, like, if I ask you to do something, I've shown you how to do that. I got Loom, I think earlier this year. I started
Yeah.
creating Loom videos so that, if
Yeah.
I'm not here
Best
and you have
way.
a question about doing something, you pop right in a Loom and there you go. And every carrier has, that's the part about being independent that's difficult, is every carrier is different. And so like I got 30 different folders with 30 different videos on how to change a mortgage or how to add a payment or change a payment or do whatever, right? So that part, and then we got another folder for our management system. How do you create a COI and do
Yeah.
all that stuff in there? So that's the part that's difficult. There's just a lot of moving parts. I'm sure, I would imagine it's pretty easy to just work at like Farmers. That's all you
Yeah, you
do.
got one.
State Farm. You're not going around a bunch of systems. You can probably get the quotes out pretty quickly, but I don't know.
You got one quote, you got one process, easier to train somebody in on.
Yeah. This
Wow.
side's way more difficult because we're I'm sure, like, again, State Farm, probably one CRM, nothing else to talk about. I don't know.
Correct.
But like, for us, it's like we have to train you on Agency Zoom, then we train you on our management system, Hawksoft, and I gotta show you how to use our phone system, and then we have to go into Erie, Travelers,
Yeah.
Progressive, Foremost, all these companies. I gotta show you how all that works.
Not to mention in our position, so we get it, and I can tell, and which I love, you are driven, you have a fire in your belly, you want to grow, you want to make a big, great agency.
I do, but it's just fun too.
Yeah,
Like, it's just fun to sell insurance, and that sounds weird because insurance is boring as all heck.
that's right.
But like, I literally have a blast doing my job on a
Yeah,
daily basis. I love quoting people. I love talking to people about their insurance. They might forget 20 minutes later, an hour later, next week when they call, but like, it's just a good time for me.
yeah. What would you say, being 2 years in so far? What's been what have the biggest challenges been for you?
I think the biggest challenge is just getting carriers to let me write their business,
Mm,
which blew my mind because, like, I don't know what everybody else is doing, but we sell insurance every day. So
yeah,
like, I don't know why they wouldn't want that opportunity, but a lot of them just don't. And the part that like really blew my mind was they don't want anything to do with us because we have Erie. They just don't like them as a company
really?
because I guess in the industry, like, people believe like, hey, you have to give them first look, and they treat you like a captive agent, and we have a hard time beating their rates anyway. So like, the hardest part has been getting relationships with carriers. Um, from
Hmm.
there, for me, like I said, I didn't really come from the PNC world. So like, Scratch Agent opened up day one. Like, I had really not a lot of idea of what I was doing
Yeah,
other than what I learned in the test and you know,
yeah,
in the system. So like, for me, the second hardest part is just building processes that are
yeah.
repeatable for people that come behind me. And that part has probably been the most challenging for me because I see the need for it, especially if I want to get to a point where I'm not working that
Correct.
much, or I'm not doing all of the quoting, or I have time to come in and be like, oh, look at all these Google reviews and you didn't send one. No offense. But like,
Yeah,
I just don't have time for that because I'm doing
yeah.
all of the
Right.
work in the business. So like, setting up those processes so that they're repeatable for other people to see has probably been the most difficult thing outside of getting other insurance companies to let me write their business.
Did you think it was going to be easier?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I'm in sales.
Right.
Like, what do you mean? They're like, well,
Yeah.
I don't know. How many quotes are you going to do? I'm going to do all of the quotes I can. That's how many
Yeah.
I'm going to do. How many do you want? I'm going to do all of the ones that I can find and put through. And they're like, well, what your sales are going to look like. I'm like, they're going to look as great as your rates.
Yeah.
That's how they're going to look. I had the guy from like Philadelphia, and I was busy, right? So I was on that schedule where I was like working police, I was doing the insurance thing. I have 2 kids also and a wife, right? So
Mm.
like, I was busy. And this guy from Philadelphia, I'm like trying to get an appointment, like, man, I need a really good home carrier to write. And he's like, well, why don't you send me over 4 home quotes and I'll see if we would have won. I'm like, all right, send him 4 quotes. He's like, well, we would have only like won one of these. Why don't you send me 4 dwelling fires? And I'm like, dude, do you want us to write
Yeah.
business for you or not? Because I don't have time to keep sending you quotes.
Yeah.
He's like, well, this is the process. And I'm like, well, I'm out. I'm just
Yeah.
not interested. And so like, I ended that, and I don't think I ended it on a bad way, but I was just like,
Yeah.
I am not going to sit here and skip ropes. You can figure out if you want to give me an appointment or not, which is like really eye opening to me, that like your decision just comes down to like one guy somewhere, in a polo shirt with a company car,
Yeah.
can just tell you whether you can get write insurance with this company or not. But it just, like, that put a really bad taste in my mouth because like, I just wanted an opportunity to write insurance. And if you have great rates, like, we're going to tell our customer like, hey, this is the best policy we found. This is an A-rated AM Best company, and this is why you should go with it. And that's all I thought that matters, but it's not. Like, these companies are kind of jerks when it comes to trying to get new appointments. It's so like the guy from Auto Owners told me flat out 2 weeks ago, like you have no chance because you have Erie. He's like, we're not gonna do
Wow.
that.
I would think it'll get easier for you though, as you know, as you move along, you have more premium, more for companies to look at, more to see your profitability, more to see your growth. I would think it's going to get easier for you. But you're right, it is time consuming. It is super time consuming.
I don't have time for that. I mean, like, and
Yeah.
at that point, like, I mean, I guess at some point you always need some more people, but like, I don't know. I don't know if I need you. Like, if
Yeah.
you want to be here now, and then hopefully one day when I grow to be a larger agency, like you come knocking and now you want to be a part of it, like, no thanks. Like I like the guy from Travelers came out to my office and like he's like, oh man, we really don't do scratch agents. And I was like, Jeff, his name was Jeff. He retired since, great guy. And I looked at him straight square in the eye and I said, listen, man, I'm gonna sell insurance. And I'd
Yeah.
love for Travelers to be a part of that. But if you don't want to be, I understand and I don't want to waste any more of your time. But we're gonna sell insurance. And to date, like, we hit profit sharing with Travelers this year.
Wow. Good for
And
you.
like I don't know, we're getting some award in a couple days from them or something. They're coming in with lunch, whatever. But that's the kind of opportunity like is important to me. And I know they're a big company and they probably don't care about the millions of agents they have, but like that guy was like, yeah, we're gonna do it. And then his boss came down and met with me and I still stay in really good contact with him. And like that's a meaningful relationship for me,
Yeah.
like Travelers, because like they came in and were like, all right, let's take an opportunity on this scratch agent, see how you can do
Yeah.
it. And we did it and we still do it, each month with them. And it's been a great relationship. We just actually got on with Travelers Commercial, and we've been able to write some business with them. So now that the relationship is a little bit more whole,
Yeah.
that we can do that. And so it's opportunities like that like I wear my heart on my sleeve. So like these companies that have kind of told me no, like I'm not forgetting that. Like, and you don't need me. And, hopefully at a certain point in my life, like I don't need you either, but like it definitely put a sour taste in my mouth.
Yeah.
Like, we're not going to work with you because you're with Erie or because you're brand new or, whatever it may be.
But they'll come around. They'll come around. And even though if you could get some of the mainstays out there, your Safeco's Nationwide.
It's
Yeah.
funny. We're actually picking up Safeco because of State Auto's dissolve.
Okay.
So actually that person called me. So like, I don't know that we need another carrier at that point. Like there's no point in having 40 carriers.
I agree. I
Like
agree.
I only have 30 because like, some of them do one thing and that's all they do. Right. So
We have about 8 personal lines, that we look at, and that's enough. They're all solid enough. I don't need 20 to go and
yeah, I
look
just don't
at
know
to
if
keep
there's
them
a point
happy.
for that. The longer I sit here and do this, like, there's no point for that. We can build more solid relationships with the companies we have. And, my biggest goal is to make sure that we hit profit sharing numbers with those companies. So I'd rather focus on that and maximizing my earnings with those companies, understanding their contracts and maximizing our earnings with those are more important than just adding on additional companies just to say, like, we have 50 different companies we can
Yeah.
go through. Like, I don't care about that.
Yeah. No. Last question for you. Have you allowed yourself to maybe look into the future and say, consider where you'd like to be in, say, 3 years from now?
I think long term, I've looked into it and just try to figure out like, hey, I really want to be in a position where I have a lot of premium, uh,
Yeah.
which correlates to a lot of revenue. I
Yeah.
think over the past few months, I post a lot in that IAOA group.
Yeah.
A lot of people ask me like, well, is that premium or is that revenue? And I never really want to brag about like revenue or talk about like what my revenue is, but ultimately, um, in 3 years, I would hope like, so we'll end this year at $2 million in premium. So in 3 years, I would really hope that we're at like, $5 or $6 million in
Wow.
premium, and we have 2 or 3 producers on board. I'm in a bigger space that can house those people, and just focusing on getting to my first 10 million in premium is kind of like my goal.
That'd be huge. And I got to tell you, 2 million after 2 years, that's massive, massive growth. and
A little
that's
over 2
impressive.
years, right? But
That's
I started
impressive.
August 1st of 2020, so I think right now we're at like 1.8, somewhere around there.
Yeah, that's
So I
impressive.
mean, it's gonna be hard through the end of the year. Like November, the last 2 Novembers, we've only done 65,000 in premium. So hopefully, this November will be a little bit better. But every year we get a little bit more, and then December we'll do what we do. But um, you know, we'll finish the year close to 2 million, if not at 2 million. But that's pretty much all I focus on. Just taking the opportunities we get to work with people, crushing them and getting new clients, and then getting more and increasing our premium.
Yeah, grow the right way so you don't create a bunch of problems down the line. And man, you're on the right path.
Yeah,
I'm
thanks.
I'm, I'm looking forward to watching your growth because I can tell. I mean, you're a hustler, and that's why you've got the two. You don't get to 2 million in premium after 2 years or very close to it if you're not a hustler. So it's impressive. So
Yeah, thank you.
So yeah, man, I'm going to be respectful of your time. So we ran over a little bit further than I thought we were going to, but really appreciate it. And good to connect with you. Um,
Likewise. Yeah,
yeah,
that was funny
yeah.
in Nashville. I was like, what? I was not ready for that. Nashville was a great time. That IAOA conference was really cool. I met a lot of great people there. Um, Took a lot of things away. That was a really, really cool experience. I think more people should figure their way out to those.
So
To
that
that.
was your first one, correct?
Yeah, that was my first conference. It was cool.
Did you have some good takeaways from that event?
I think so. I
Yeah,
think my biggest thing was, obviously not having employees before, but defining roles. I forget
yeah,
what they talked about that, but just defining roles and making sure. I think it might have been Brad. He talked about it. He was like, make sure like certain things come to you, right? So I thought that was really good, and it was something that we implemented. I implemented right when I got back, and there was just a lot of really good speakers with a lot of information. And I'd be lying if I say I took all the notes and implemented everything, but there was
yeah.
like
No,
two things that I definitely did. Defining the roles, and then just I think someone talked about like when a client leaves you and how that's a firing, and like making sure when they leave, do they have the right coverages? Do they lose anything that they should
yeah.
have had? That was something that we implemented right away. But I would definitely recommend that to anybody. If you've never gone, you should definitely go. I mean, I met a lot of really cool people, and I had a lot of fun.
There's so many things that are relatable, and it's refreshing because you don't know what to expect. This year was actually a little bit different how they structured it. Normally in the afternoon they have like four or five different tracks that you can choose to go to. So you can choose what makes most sense for where you're at, and then cater it, and it's a little bit better here with everything being on one stage. You were maybe forced to listen to a presentation on whatever it was. Oh, if you're getting ready to sell or whatever. Well, that's not where you're at right now. So hopefully they go back. But I know my first couple of years, my mind was blown because everything related to what I was doing. So it was
Yeah,
almost too much.
I'm kind
You
of
know.
bummed. I don't think I'll be able to go next year because like my youngest kid will be a senior, and like this year I missed one of his football games, and I watched it on YouTube on my phone while we were there. But like next year he'll be a senior, and I'm not really
You
not
can't
going to
miss that.
sacrifice that when I can go
Yeah,
to IOA conferences forever. But
yeah.
yeah, so like I'm kind of bummed because I've never been to Chicago. B, I think it'd be kind of cool, and C, like I think there's a lot of information you can learn from listening to different people in our industry.
Yeah, yeah, agreed 100%. I got more out of connecting with people this year than I did from, the actual program, which not that the program
Yeah,
was bad. I just connected with so many different people.
I've made
So
great
it was
relationships with people that I still talk to regularly now. Like we talk every couple days,
yeah,
with other insurance agents around the country, and like bounce ideas or questions of things that happened to me, or where should I write this, or how should I do this, or how should I respond to that. I can just message somebody that I met there and ask them, and everyone's like so helpful.
I know, and I made the mistake early on where I didn't reach out to anybody. I'm like, nah, I know he's busy. I don't want to bug him.
See, I always go with like they just won't answer me if they're busy. Like if you're busy, don't answer me. But I'll ask everybody anything.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't know how to fill out Accord forms when I first started, and the underwriter at the MGA we used was like, "I can. Do you need me to help you with the 125?" I'm like, "Absolutely. I don't know what I'm doing. Never seen this thing. I don't even know where to get one." I realized my management system did those, and she's like, "All right." And like literally zoomed and screen shared and helped me do it. So like I'll ask anybody anything.
Yeah.
They'll either tell me they can do it or they can't.
Yeah, I will now. It's right. Yeah, now it's I've since shifted that, and yeah, everybody. It seems like almost everybody's willing to help out and willing to share. It's amazing. So it really is a pretty cool industry, no matter what other people think about it.
Right.
So, and I will just for reference that we did meet on the third floor of Tootsie's on Friday night at a may or may not have been after midnight, but either way, it was a good time. So
listen, I went to that place and I had to leave because my friend got promoted to Buffalo office for New York Life, and I was going up there for the Steelers and Buffalo game. So I only went to the conference on Thursday and Friday.
Yeah.
I stayed up all night Friday night. I was out at Tootsie's or other locations there until about 2. We Ubered back to the Grand. And then I took that same Uber to the airport and hopped on an airplane, flew back to Pittsburgh, grabbed my wife, and drove to Buffalo. Went to the Steelers game that weekend. Like I had a blast. I was living like a teenager.
Yeah.
I had a blast. Yeah.
All right, Mike. Well, it's been a pleasure. Thanks again for taking the time. I know you're busy, but this was a lot of fun. So I'm looking forward to staying connected. Absolutely. So thanks for being with me, everybody. Everybody else, thank you very much for listening in on another episode of the Agents to Owners podcast. And we will see you next time. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.